Hey, what's going on, guys? Pastor Steveo here with another one of our 10:10 devotionals. Again, that all comes from the scripture, John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that you may have life and life more abundantly. That's what we believe that God's heart for us is, because Jesus said it. And so that's what we just stand on. And so around 10 o'clock, around 10:10ish in the mornings, I like to put these devotionals out there for you, just walking through the scriptures. So the past couple of days, past couple of devotionals, we've been walking through John chapter 9. And so I'm going to continue doing that, walking through this story, because I just think there's so many truths that we can pull out of this simple passage. So if you have a Bible, if you're home, you're sitting around, you have a Bible, awesome. If you're at work or you're somewhere where you can get your phone out, I encourage you, open up your app, turn to John chapter 9. If not, I'll put the words here on the screen, and you can read along that way, or just listen to the soothing, calm sound of my voice as I read you the scriptures. Just kidding. I'm just playing. Don't imagine that at all. It's kind of weird. Anyway, John chapter 9. If you haven't been with us the past couple of videos, go in and watch those after this one. I promise I'll give you some background. But watch those, and while you're at it, like this video, comment on it. Let me know where you're at, where you're watching from. Go ahead and hit the notifications so that you see when these videos pop up more often. Let's just jump in here. So John chapter 9, Jesus is with his disciples. They've been walking. His disciples see a blind man, and they ask Jesus a question. They're like, why is this guy blind? Was it something that he did? Was it his fault, his sin, or his parents' sin? And Jesus answered them and responded, it's not because of any of that. This man has been blind so that the power of God would be seen through him, right? And so we've talked about how God wants his power and his glory to be seen through you and through your life. And so whatever you're going through, you can have hope, because the power of God is available, and it is the will of God that his power be shown and seen through you and through your life and through even the worst of circumstances that you may be facing. So that's just, to me, just such a huge encouragement. Then the next week we kind of continued and looked at what was going on and how the obedience of that blind man led to him receiving his sight, and how some people didn't see it. Some people didn't want to believe it was even the same guy, right? But he was like, no, it's me. This is who I was, but this is now who I am. So this is kind of where we're picking up. He's been healed. Word is spreading, as you can imagine. Just imagine that happening around here or in your hometown or wherever you're at. Word would spread. And so the word spread. The religious leaders didn't like it. They already had problems with Jesus. They're already a little leery of him. And so they were spreading the word that, like, look, if you're calling this Jesus the Messiah, if you're trying to hold him to a high level, following him, like, we're going to kick you out of the synagogue. We're going to make you an outcast, and you're going to be, on your own, because this is not the way it's supposed to go. So they were really not on board with what Jesus was doing. And now they have found out that this man has been healed, and people are saying that Jesus did it. So they are going to him and interrogating him and questioning him. And that's where I'll pick up right here, John chapter 9, verse 13. So they took the man who had been blind to the Pharisees, because it was on the Sabbath that Jesus had made the mud and healed him. The Pharisees asked the man all about it. So he told him, he said, he put mud over my eyes, and when I washed it away, I could see. And some of the Pharisees said, well, this man Jesus is not from God. He is working on the Sabbath. Others said, how could an ordinary sinner do such miraculous signs? So there was a deep division of opinion among them. When the Pharisees again questioned the man who had been blind and demanded, what's your opinion about this man who healed you? So the Pharisees are asking the guy again, and they're not only wanting to know what happened. Now they know what happened, and they're having a hard time, denying that. So now they want to know, what is your opinion? What are your thoughts on this man that you say healed you? And he replied, I think he must be a prophet. Right? So here's a blind man who's been a beggar all his life. He hasn't been a scholar. He has not been a religious leader. He has not been, someone who probably even had a lot of education. His life consisted of just simply asking for money, begging for scraps to get by, because he couldn't do much, right? He wasn't of much use or help. He couldn't work and do his own kind of thing. He was blind, and so that's what was his life. That's all he could do to contribute was ask for pity from others. So here he is now emboldened, I believe, because that's what happens when Jesus does miraculous things in your life. It emboldens you, right? So now he's talking to Pharisees. These are like high-level people, intimidating people. All right, the people there were intimidated by these people because of their position in their culture and in their world. And then here he is being questioned aggressively by them, and he's responding boldly. And he says, well, I think he must be a prophet, right? This is what he's reasoning. And the Jewish leaders, they still refused to believe him, that the man blind, that he had been blind and could now see. So they called his parents. So now they're like, I don't think this is a scam. This has got to be a scam. So they tracked down the man's parents. They questioned them, and they're like, who is this guy? Is this your son? Was he blind from birth? Like, what happened? Who healed him? How did this happen? And his parents, they're scared too because of the threats that have been made. And they're like, listen, this is our son. We know that. Absolutely, this is our son. And yes, he's been blind from birth. How he can now see, we don't know. We don't know. But you know what? He's a grown man, so go ask him yourself. Basically, they're like, don't put us in the middle of this. We don't have answers, and we don't want to give answers. We just know that he can see now, which is great, but you go ask him about all the details, right? And so they go back to him again. In verse 24, it says, so the second time they came to the man who had been blind and told him, God should get the glory for this, because we know this man Jesus is a sinner. Now look at just how this thing turns around, right? In the beginning, the question was, is this man a sinner? Why is he blind? And Jesus says it's so that the power of God would be seen through him, that the glory of God would be seen through him, right? That God would give glory by his power being seen and shown through this man's life and through his healing. And now those who are standing against Jesus are saying, this isn't right. God should be the one getting the glory for this. And Jesus is like, yeah, I know. It's exactly what I would say it. And they said that God should get the glory for this because we know, the Pharisees say that they know this man Jesus is a sinner. And what are they basing that on? Because he healed someone on the Sabbath, right? Another example, we can't get into it right now because we're just out of time for that, but man taking God's law of the Sabbath and adding their own things on top of it, right? So now Jesus isn't allowed to heal people on the Sabbath according to them. So the man responds and he says, I don't know whether he's a sinner, but I know this. I was blind and now I can see. We skip down to verse 30 and they're talking about disciples because he gets a little sarcastic with them. They're asking him all these questions. He's like, well, why are you asking me so many questions? Are you wanting to be his disciples? Like, are you wanting to know because you want to go follow him? And they're like, we're not. You're his disciple. Then they turn it on him, right? Like, you are. You're the disciple. We're disciples of Moses because we know that God spoke to Moses. We know that God sent Moses, right? But this Jesus guy, we're not behind this guy. And the man responds and he says, that's very strange. He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from. He healed my eyes, yet you don't know where he comes from. Sometimes it's as basic as going back to what has happened, right? Like, instead of questioning what God can and cannot do, instead of questioning what Jesus can and cannot do or will not do in a situation, just look at what it was. Was he blind and now they see? Yeah, so clearly this is from the Lord. And then we skip down verse 33. He says, if this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it. He healed my eyes, yet you don't know where he comes from. And I want to leave you with that. I know you could be in a difficult situation in your life right now, but think back to what God has done. Sometimes we're in the middle of things and it's rocky. The path and the journey is rough, and you start looking around and you're like, man, what am I doing wrong? Did I make a mistake? Did I take a wrong turn? Has God forsaken me? What has happened? But go back to that beginning. Go back to that place where you knew that God sent you. You knew that God placed this on your heart. You knew that God had called you to do this thing. God had called you to lead in this way, or just called you to follow him. And sometimes it's as simple as like following Jesus. I answered the call, Jesus. I answered the call to follow you. I gave you my yes. I surrendered my life. And now, like, I don't know, there's rough things in my life on this path and on this journey. Did I make a mistake? Just remember, like, he saved you. You may not have been physically blind, but spiritually, we were spiritually blind to the goodness of God, to the love of God, and now we see it. So how could this call to follow him not be from the Lord? How could this journey that we're on not be God ordained if we've been given the grace and we've been given the spiritual sight? And there's going to be people that question. There's always going to be people that question the work of God and the hand of God on your life. And they may question, is this even you? No, this isn't you. I know who you really were. I know who you once were. You can't be this person now. Who are you to speak to us in this way? You're a blind beggar. But you see, this man's identity changed when he had an encounter with Jesus. He was a blind beggar before, but he can't be that anymore because he's not blind. That's not who he is anymore. He's been healed. And I think the Pharisees were giving him a really good piece of advice on who he should be moving forward. And that's a disciple of Jesus. They said, you're a disciple of Jesus. And that's exactly what the Lord wanted for him and from him. And maybe you've been blind before, but now you have sight. And I'm telling you right now, your next step is to simply be a disciple of Jesus. Don't worry about the how this happened, how that happened. Just trust him. Trust him today. Choose him today. Say yes today. Remember his faithfulness. Remember what he has done. Let that fortify your faith now and knowing, okay, this is from God because he wouldn't have rescued me here if he didn't want me here right now. So it may be scary right now, but he brought me out of this place and he brought me here and led me here, so I know that he's with me. I love you guys. There's so much more I want to dig into, but we'll do that again here in a couple of days on our next devotional. We'll probably pick up somewhere else, but I just wanted to share that word with y'all. Be sure, again, if you haven't liked this or subscribed or to follow any of our channels on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, do that just so you always stay up to date with what's going on here at Journey. If you're in the Victoria Crossroads area, I'd like to personally invite you to come worship with us Sunday mornings at 11 a.m., Wednesday nights at 7 p.m., downtown Victoria, 120 South Main. We love to see you, get to know you, meet you, help you along your walk with the Lord, and lead you to those next steps. And so if you'd like to support the ministry, check out our website, joinjourney.church. You can use our text to give number there on the screen. If you're a member and you just need to send in your tithe or your donations, or if you just want to support what God's doing, we want to continue to create this content for you guys, and we want to continue to spread the gospel and lead people from spiritual blindness and darkness into the light. I love you guys. We'll see you the next one.